I would explain Kathak as a dance form that can be understood very, very easily by audiences of all age, of all cultures. All the classical dances, they do require a lot of practice and a lot of stamina. They do demand. See, for us, it is all Ardhanarishwar. It is Shiva and Parvati together in one body. Now, we have this very famous Ganesh Paran. The Gang Gang Ganapati Gajamukha Mangal Gita Geda Gita Geda Gita Geda Thun Thun Tat Tat Thai.
The following is a conversation with Swati Sinha. She is an extremely accomplished exponent of Kathak dance. Subscribe now and enjoy the conversation. Swati Sinha ji, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me here.
So, I am very interested in Indian culture. I have a basic rudimentary understanding of Indian classical music, not so much of dance. And you are one of the eminent exponents of Kathak. So I hope to learn about this dance form from you today. So we have so many dance forms in India. Some are classified as folk, some as classical. And one of the preeminent dance forms is Kathak. So could you give a very basic, layperson's introduction to Kathak? What is Kathak? What's the origin? What's it about?
Sure. I'll try my best. How I understand Kathak is a dance form that is very easy to understand from an audience's point of view, because the expressional aspect of it, and not only the expressional aspect but the technical details such as the hand gestures and all are very natural and what we call in Hindi sahaj. That is very easy to understand, and therefore a Kathak dancer is able to communicate to the audience very easily, especially the audience that we have from the North Indian belt. The language that we use is mostly Hindi, Brij Bhasha. Of course, Sanskrit is the prime language that we use. Then we have Avadhi and other dialects of Hindi, which again becomes quite easy for people to understand and connect to. So this is the prime quality of Kathak that I would say. And even when we come to the ahare or the costume and the get-up that we talk about, it is very, very natural. The makeup, the jewelry that we use, the costume that is mostly, since I belong to the Jaipur style of Kathak, we use a lot of lehenga choli and all, which is the normal dress of women in Rajasthan still. And the anarkali kurtas and all, which people identify with very easily.
Okay.
So I would explain Kathak as a dance form that can be understood very, very easily by audiences of all age, of all cultures.
I see. And is it a female dance form or a male dance form or both?
Of course, both. In fact, this is a speciality of Indian classical dances that it is gender neutral.
I see.
So, whether it is Bharatnatyam or Kathak, you cannot say that it is a male dance form or a female dance form, but we have the male energy aspect and the female energy aspect that is there. So, see, for us, it is all Ardhanarishwar. It is Shiva and Parvati together in one body. So, we have a male dancer showing a ghungat ki gat. And he can look very, very expressive, and we can have a female dancer portraying the character of Kans.
I see.
So that is the beauty of Indian classical dances. We don't talk about gender in that sense, that this is a male dance and this is a female dance.
It's about energy.
It is about the energy.
I see. And what sets Kathak apart from, let's say, Odissi or Kuchipudi or other dance forms? What is distinctive about Kathak?
Of course, as I said earlier, it is understood very easily because of the language that is used, the gestures that are used, and also, rhythmically speaking, Kathak is one dance form that has the quality of establishing a time cycle as a separate part of dance, which is called the Nritya aspect or the technical aspect. So when you watch all other classical dances, whether it is Odissi or Bharatnatyam, you will see the element of accompanying music always there, or the vocals always accompany. But in case of Kathak, we have this time cycle of say say it is a 16 beat time cycle, and then in Kathak dance it is has the ability to explore that 16 beat time cycle through numerous permutations and combinations of rhythm. So in an entire performance, you can say we can dance to a time cycle of say 40 minutes or 50 minutes if we have a 1 hour performance. So that really sets it apart. And since there is no meaning behind it, there is this sense of abandon, of joy that is there. So it is very easy again for the audience to understand that rhythm, relate to it, connect to it. And most importantly, we use this dear mic a lot, and we talk to the audience directly.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
I see. Could you elaborate about the time cycle? Are you talking about a tala?
Yes, I'm talking about
So what is a tala? Could you explain to the audience?
Tal is basically a fixed set of number of beats, and that makes it a time cycle since it is repeated again and again and again. And in Kathak, what happened is that since it is so deeply influenced by percussion, and the most ancient percussion instrument that we have is pakhavaj. And then, of course, the ever popular tabla.
Of course.
It took over everything. So we borrow immensely from pakhavaj and tabla. And therefore, we took the rhythmic patterns from them, and the Kathak dancers, our forefathers, they added their ideas to it. And so we create small rhythmic patterns that might last, the longest might last up to 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes.
Okay.
And so there are various permutations and combination happening with the numbers. Say 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 1 2 1 2, 1 2 1 2 1 2, 1 2 1 2 1 2. So even for a layman, he can enjoy the rhythm, even if he doesn't understand the syllables as such.
Indeed.
He understands the rhythm pattern that is, behind it, the counting that is behind it. So in a tal, we explore these small rhythmic patterns, and we have different names for them.
Such as?
Say, a small rhythmic pattern called tukda.
Okay.
Now, tukda is a Hindi word.
A piece.
We all identify with it. It's a small piece. Then we have a little bigger piece called toda.
Okay.
Then, getting inspired directly from the pakhavaj, we have paran. Now, we have this very famous Ganesh paran. Gang gang ganapati gajamukh mangal gita geda thun tat thai tajay jagavandan vakra sund dhani dhata Veghan haran shubh karan dhage dhumakit thadung dadigana thai thadung dadigana thai thadung tirigadagadagina dha. So here you see we have this mantra gang gang ganapati gajamukh mangal. And so terms such as these, which are very easily identifiable.
Yes.
And therefore they connect with the audience. That comes on very quickly. We don't have to explain the story behind it. And also we have this very interesting aspect of improvisation that we do on stage. And a Kathak dancer is capable of improvising for almost 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
With the tabla wala.
Free flow.
Free flowing. Not that it is absent in other dance forms, but they mostly do it in terms of expressional piece. But Kathak has the added advantage of exploring rhythm on the spot. And of course, the expressional piece, of course, the what you call the improvisational aspect, as we call in the technical language, sanchari bhav, is always there.
Okay.
That is there in all the dances. But this rhythmic improvisation is very interesting. There is this often this friendly banter between the tabla wala and the dancer, which is called the jugalbandi.
The jugalbandi, it exists in dance as well.
Always, yes.
I see.
So that is like magic, works every time.
It's banter, isn't it? Yes.
Yes. So all these things which make it a very lively dance form, very easy to connect to, and one can enjoy this dance form even without having a context of the Indian culture as such, and therefore even the Western audience, they enjoy it thoroughly.
So one thing as a layperson that I've observed is that Kathak for me, appears to be a much more vigorous, physically vigorous and demanding dance form than the other dances, for instance. And there's a very strong emphasis on feet movements, right? The feet, they tap out the patterns, right?
Yes. Being a dancer myself and having worked with a lot of dancers of other genres such as Bharatnatyam and Odissi and Kuchipudi and Kathakali, I wouldn't say that it is more vigorous than others or requires more stamina. Each of the dance forms, they require a lot of stamina. It's just that it is being used differently. In Bharatnatyam, there are a lot of jumps and the first posture itself that puts a lot of strain on the body. In Odissi, there is the use of the torso. Tribhanga poses, which are very difficult to achieve.
I see. It's very difficult. It looks effortless and graceful.
It looks effortless, yes, because you have watched very good dances, I'm sure. So it looks so effortless. But no, this is a lot of effort. In Kathak, it is more visible probably because of the fast footwork that we do, the sound of the feet that makes it more. If it is audible, we tend to think that yes, there's a lot of hard work going on. But
it is audible. Whatever I've seen, it's been audible.
Yes. So and the spins, of course, which require a lot of balance and a lot of practice. But I truly believe that all the classical dances they do require a lot of practice and a lot of stamina. They do demand. But it's just put differently in the different dances.
Right. So what made you become a Kathak dancer?
I would say my mother.
Okay. What's the story?
So the story is a very simple one. I used to dance in front of the TV all the time, whatever song there was.
As a kid?
As a kid, I was must have been around 4-5 years old, and also my mother had that inherent desire when she was a kid that to learn dancing. So she thought that I couldn't do it. Let's just see if she's so interested in moving around, then let's put her in a dance class. And fortunately for me, this is just his plan, I would say, that the institute that I later went to, Kathak Kendra, was just across the road.
I see.
So we used to live in this area called Mandi House. Since my father was in the government service, so we had that government accommodation there. And Kathak Kendra and NSD were both there in the same building called the Bhavalpur House, the very popular area in Delhi. And so my mother took me there. They had an audition, and again, it was, I believe in his plans, I was put into my Guruji's class directly. So right from my first day of training, I've been under my guru, Pandit Rajendra Gangani ji.
I see.
And I was, I have to say, I was very, very fortunate.
I see. So what is the training like?
Training, initially for me, since it started off as a hobby, it was like 3 times a week class where we used to go, and I found it very, very interesting. I was always looking forward to those 3 days.
I see.
And that continued for some time till, so basically it's that as a child I never used to practice. I didn't have that thing inside me that I should practice at home. I just used to like dancing. I used to like going to the class, and most importantly I liked learning from Guruji. That was there. So that was the seed that he had sown, that whatever you do, you're going to come to the class. Day after tomorrow, you're not going to take an off, you're going to come to the class. He made sure. That was his teaching style. So gradually my interest in it grew, and I realized that it is something that I'm good at. And I was getting a lot of attention from my seniors, from other people in the Kendra, and I believed that, probably this is the way for me. And at a certain point in my life, when probably I was in 10th standard, 9th or 10th standard, I made up my mind that I want to do this. Then started the rigorous training, or riyaz as we call. So, which meant that less time was being spent learning and more time was being spent practicing what was
what had been learned.
Yes. So, to have finesse in it and to be able to grasp what you call the lay. Lay is basically, if I put it in a technical way, then lay is when the beats are equally distributed. So there is this constant tempo. And getting used to that constant tempo, understanding lay is a very, very difficult task. And I realized that I got a grasp over it only after 10 to 11 years of training.
Wow, I see.
So there was a good amount of time that I spent with dance, so that I grew with dance, and my dance grew with me. And then I realized the importance of riyaz, which I was not understanding till that point of time. That is your own practice, the amount of time you have to give to that riyaz, and you have to become your own teacher. You have to become your own critic. At that point, you don't look into the mirror and say, wow, I dance so beautifully. You say, hey, your movement didn't open enough, or it didn't go high enough. Are you looking at what you're doing? Are you being attentive, or are you listening to the time cycle that is being played? Are you in time or not?
Yes.
So that is when you start becoming your own teacher, besides your guru being there to correct your flaws. So that is rigorous riyaz that one is supposed to do after a certain point of time in learning.
So what's the transition like from being a student to being an actual practitioner on stage? I mean, is there an initiation ceremony or something for, like we have Arangetram in Bharatnatyam, that sort of thing?
Traditionally speaking, I haven't heard of anything like that in case of Kathak.
Okay.
Nowadays, people are doing Rangmanch Pravesh sort of a thing. But maybe I believe that is something that being inspired by the Arangetram concept of Bharatnatyam. But in Kathak, we had no such concept.
I see.
That I know of.
So when do you feel you transition from being a student to being an actual practitioner?
For me, there was no line. It was very, very blurred. Because, see, I started off as a 7-year-old.
Yes.
And at some point of time, I think I was in my 3rd year of training that Guruji put me on stage for the first time. And that is when the journey with the stage started. And gradually, we started performing more and more as I spent more years. We started performing more and more. Kathak Kendra used to have this annual festival called Chhatrotsav at that time. Now it is not there, but we used to have Chhatrotsav. So we were all put on the stage for that Chhatrotsav. And then Guruji was performing here and there. He used to take me along with him and many other students who were very interested in the form. And we used to perform. So I really cannot point out when that transition happened. For me, it was very, very gradual and very natural. That, okay, this is the way forward.
So how is it when you transition from practicing in a room to being on stage? How is it the first time you go on stage and there are people watching? Is that intimidating? Is it overwhelming? Or is it just natural? Because most people, I mean, there's this entire, there's this entire community of how to do public speaking. And most people are terrified of public speaking, being on a stage in front of an audience. So how was it for you?
For me, the first few years, I would say the first 5-6 years, when I started performing, I felt nothing. I was very, very confident on stage. I felt I was made for the stage.
I see.
And but only as far as dance was concerned. If you would leave me for some sort of debate or an oratory experience, no.
Okay.
Absolutely not. When I was dancing, maybe I was not looking at the audience, or maybe I was, I don't remember, but I was very comfortable on stage. The nervousness only started coming in when I started understanding the nuances of the form.
Okay.
When I could understand that okay, this is a mistake.
Okay.
This shouldn't happen. You have to smile and you have to connect with the audience. When those sorts of realizations started coming in, then I was like nervous going on the stage. And even today, before going on the stage, there are butterflies in my stomach.
I see. So that came later.
That came much later. Initially, I was a stage person. Okay, as a child, nothing mattered, no?
Okay.
Because you're so free. All you want to do is dance and be appreciated. Okay, people clapping, very happy. You don't know what has gone wrong, what might go wrong.
As a child, you don't. Yes.
You don't care about those things.
Yes.
You're a free soul.
Yes.
So that's how it was with me.
So when you perform on stage, do you sense the audience, or are you totally withdrawn inside and focusing on yourself?
For me, that connection is very, very important. You have to sense the audience. In fact, you have to be so present in the moment. You cannot afford to get lost in yourself.
Okay.
You have to be present in the moment and intelligent enough to gauge what the audience is asking for.
Okay.
See, you're a performer at that point of time. You're there for the audience. For myself, I perform every day.
Okay.
Every riyaz is a performance for me,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So, but when you're on the stage, you're there for the audience and you're there for your accompanists as well.
Yes.
So, you take care of a lot of things, the space around you. Am I using the space properly or am I just standing in one place?
Okay.
That awareness has to be there. My audience is trained in the dance form or do I have an untrained audience in front of me? You have to gauge through the expression of their eyes, through their appreciation that, okay, I'm going the right way or do I need to change a bit?
Okay.
And if I choose to do a particular rhythmic pattern, are my accompanists comfortable with it or not? Or should I just do something simple, or can I do something more complicated depending on who I have for my support that day? And if Guruji happens to be there on stage to help accompany, you are like free, okay, everything is taken care of.
I see.
I can do whatever I want to do. So it depends on the situation. And see, as far as being lost in oneself is concerned, even Bharat Muni in the Natya Shastra says that you don't have to forget yourself. You are there all the time. So your presence of mind and everything has to be there to be able to do justice to the performance. At that point of time, your aim is that the audience is able to get the rasa out of it.
What is rasa?
Rasa is the experience that the audience goes through.
The audience, not you.
The audience goes through, not you.
Okay, that's what you want to make them feel and experience.
Yes,
okay.
yes. You have to take them on that journey. You are responsible for that journey.
So is there a predefined thing that today I'm going to make this rasa be felt?
No, probably not. You cannot do it. It's something very intuitive and very difficult to explain and understand. It just happens. Sometimes, as we say in our daily life, no, everything falls into place.
Yes.
At certain moments, everything falls into place, and then that perfect moment is created. Similarly, on stage. So when you're in the right mood, you're in the right frame of mind, your accompanists are on the same track as you, they understand you well, you understand your accompanists well, you have connected well with the audience, your choice of your things that you are dancing is on the right track, everything falls together. And then you're able to, go on a journey together, everybody as one entity. And that is the point when the audience feels one with you and they are able to experience that rasa.
Right. So in a single performance, do you make them experience multiple rasas? Is there a journey of various rasas?
Yes, it can be.
So it's like a story, you're telling a story.
Yeah, it is a story. All Indian classical dance forms have come out of the storytelling technique only. We all tell stories.
So you're essentially actors.
Yes,
and
you can
acting out
say
certain
that.
events
Yes.
in the form of dance.
It's just that our way of doing it.
I see. And you spoke about the Natya Shastra. So what is the Natya Shastra and what does it have to do with dance?
Natya Shastra, yes. Natya Shastra is our Bible, you can say, our grammar book.
Okay.
And many people get confused with the word Natya, equating it with Natak. But Natya is actually ancient Sanskrit drama, which had elements of music and dance and acting into it. Everything woven together. It was only that after a period of time, there was, as you call, division of labor, and then we had the musicians, the vocal music, instrumental music, then dance as a separate genre and theatre as a separate genre. But initially everything started together. So there's this huge book that talks about all the aspects of ancient Sanskrit drama, including how playhouse should be constructed, what different forms of stage you can have, where the green room should be, what are the qualities of an actor, what are the qualities of a director, what are the qualities of a dancer. And to the greatest detail.
I see.
There is no other book like the Natya Shastra which can talk about the I'll say ancient Sanskrit theatre again, in that way, that detail, that if you are showing a particular character or trying to portray a particular rasa, there is a certain makeup color that you should use. It goes to that extent.
I see.
So very, very detailed book. And now we have, of course, come very far from it. But still we find, when we read the Natya Shastra, we find many things that we can connect to. We can connect the dots and say that, okay, this is where we came from.
So even thousands of years ago, we had directors, we had green rooms, we had makeup.
Oh, they were much more professional than what we are today.
I see. Fascinating.
Yes, and there was this, the whole system of doing puja on the stage. Each part of the stage was, first paid obeisance to, and then only the play started, and then also it had a certain pattern. The play should have a certain pattern, and that should be followed by whoever is writing that play.
Oh, I see. So you said that that Kathak is very interactive. You interact with the audience. Is this a characteristic of all Indian dances? I think in Manipuri, there is not much interaction between the performer and the audience. So is it something that's specific to Kathak?
Yes, it is. I would say that. Because see, what happens is, once I would use the word item in absence of a better word for it. Once a particular, say in Bharatnatyam, there's a Varanam or a Shabdam that they are dancing. Once they start dancing, as I said, the journey, everybody undertakes together only. The dancer is there, the audience is there, the accompanists are there, everybody is involved. But, and the dancer does look at the audience, does try to gauge their reaction, whether they are liking it or not, or should I improvise more, or this is enough. That sort of thing is there. But in Kathak, you can directly, talk to the audience.
So you actually speak?
Yes, we actually speak.
Do you speak or do you sing?
We speak. It is called, when we do it formally, in the sense of reciting the rhythmic pattern, it is called padhant.
Okay.
We do it so that the audience understands, the accompanist, the tabla wala understands what you're going to do next. Because many times we dance without rehearsals.
I see.
Impromptu. And the other way of communication is, we have this concept of farmaish.
Okay.
When we have a learned audience in front of us, they often say, about the tal system. So, is tal mein ek paran karke dikha dijiye.
Okay.
Why don't you do this? So, that sort of interaction is also there.
Okay.
There is a farmaish from the audience. A request from the audience, or one can say an order from the audience. The audience can order. So, that is what I'm supposed to do next. And also, the interaction is when we try to explain, if in case we have an audience who is not so well versed with our dance form, we often explain the thought behind an intra-form or the rhythmic pattern, and that is the time when we look directly into their eyes, and then we also have this aspect of bhav, expressional piece, where we sometimes very senior dancers, they do it. We talk about what we are thinking and we improvise on that word, a particular word or a particular sentence of the poetry that you've taken. And sometimes you just stop in between, you talk to the audience that, see, this is what I feel, and then you go ahead. With the singer, you say that, okay, you sing the line, and then you do it. So it is interactive to that extent.
If you have a non-Indian audience, how do you interact with them?
The non-Indian audience has to be, we need to be very careful about explaining each and everything that you do, because they don't have the context of our culture.
So do you explain in English?
Yes, we do explain in English. And if we have an audience where the audience is not comfortable with the language, suppose whenever we go to places like Germany and Switzerland, they prefer to hear the things in their own language. They have an affinity for their language, which is an excellent thing.
It's a good thing, yeah.
It's a very good thing.
Yes.
And so we often take care that there is somebody who can translate.
But does it slow down the performance?
No, it doesn't. Because see, what is slowing down? If you mean the pace of what you are dancing, then yes. But then it is all about how you're able to make the audience understand you, or how you're able to reach the audience.
Okay.
That is the main aim of the performance, right? So when you're able to do that, then you don't really care about what is happening to the pace.
Okay.
So as long as you are able to connect and portray what you really want to do properly, then the battle is won.
Right. And there's also this non-verbal communication, the facial expressions and all that. So is it something that's once again specific to Kathak, that you have very expressive faces? I think Kuchi, the dance form from Kerala, what is
Kathakali.
It? Kathakali. That's all about expressions. But there are other dance forms like Manipuri where you have the same expression throughout. So is this again something that's kind of specific to Kathak, the facial expressions?
The facial expressions, I think, is there in all the dance forms except for Manipuri, as you said. You understood it well. They have that veil in front of their faces, and mostly whatever they express is through their very beautiful hand movements and their leg movements, which are mostly they are on their toes and everything, and their beautiful costumes. For Kathakali, of course, it's much more theatrical. It's actually a dance drama.
I see.
Kathakali is a dance drama. So they of course, their expressions are very vivid and very broad, as you would say, huge expressions. And they use those lovely colors depending on the character that they are portraying. So for Kathak, Bharatnatyam or Odissi, of course, that element is there, the dramatic element is there, but not as much as Kathakali.
And what are the themes and the stories that you express in the performances?
Traditionally speaking, it is mostly about Krishna.
Krishna.
Yes. And we believe, I don't know much about it because the research aspect of it is still undergoing. That Kathak is very, very deeply influenced by the Ras Leela.
Geet Govind?
Geet Govind is, Odissi is very deeply influenced by Geet Govind.
So Kathak is Ras Leela?
Kathak is influenced by the Ras Leela that is still done in Vrindavan. If you go there during what you call Sharad Purnima, they have a Ras Leela happening there.
So what happens in the Ras Leela? Could you please explain?
Ras Leela, the traditional way that it is done is that Krishna and Radha are in the center and the gopis, they form a circle around. And the common things that we find with Ras Leela, many of the bols that we dance to, the syllables, the traditional syllables, many of the syllables we are able to make out in the Ras Leela. And of course, the stories of Krishna, we portray them in two different ways. One is through an abhinay item, that is a piece of poetry. It can be Surdas, it can be Meerabai, it can be Raidas, it can be any of the earlier poets. This I'm talking about a traditional recital.
Okay.
And also in the Jaipur style of Kathak, we have this what you call kavitya. You can say it comes from the word kavita, which means poem. So we have this fast-paced rhythmic poetry. If there is time, I'll just give an example.
Please do.
Okay. So this very short poem. Sheesh mukut bansi mukh baje chapal nain kundal jhalke मोर मुकुट पीतांबर सोहे मंद मंद माधुरी मुस्के माधो एक माधो दो माधो तीन माधो चार माधो पाँच माधो छः माधो सात माधो आठ माधो नौ. So in this particular poetry, we are basically depicting the ahare of Krishna. But you see the speed. Sheesh mukut bansi mukh baje. So you have to maintain that speed, the rhythmic pattern, as well as the expressions at the same time. So this was the very basic kavit that we generally teach to beginners.
Okay.
But so this is how we start with teaching kavitas. Then we have big kavitas where we explore the story of Kaliya Daman or Govardhan Leela.
Yes.
And so on and so forth. So Krishna is explored in these two different ways.
Okay.
In Kathak.
And so you explored, apart from Krishna, are there other themes as well?
Of course. See, today we are talking about social issues also. We are talking about environmental issues through dance. So see, dance is, it's a vocabulary. It's a language that you have with you. How you use it is up to you. You can use it according to your interests. Like once I did a piece where I was talking about women empowerment through dance. Everything through the language of dance. I didn't have to dilute my language at all, my vocabulary at all. I didn't have to do those aerial jumps, or I didn't have to borrow any sort of vocabulary from contemporary dancing or anything of that sort. My vocabulary is very, very rich. The Indian classical dance vocabulary is very rich. When I say my, it means the entire arena of Indian classical dance. Our vocabulary is so rich, we don't have to use any sort of slang. So it's just that are you mature enough to use it in the proper way?
Right.
Then you don't feel the need to add anything to it. Right. So if my command over English is not good, if my command over Hindi is not good, what do? I mix 2-3 languages together and I speak. And I say that, okay, this is a new language. No, that doesn't work that way.
Right.
If my training is strong enough, I have given it enough thought, I have given it enough hard work, I have developed it, I have strengthened it, then I don't need to use any other language.
You can express all ideas.
Yes, all ideas, contemporary, traditional, whatever you want to talk about, you can do it.
I've heard it said that Spanish flamenco is very similar to Kathak. So what do you think about that?
Yes, we believe that it was the some of the nomadic tribes from Rajasthan who actually traveled to the Andalusian region and they settled there. And in fact, since my Guruji is a Rajasthani, he was saying that when he went to Spain to work with flamenco artists, there were many words in their vocabulary, in their normal language that was very typically Rajasthani.
Yes.
So yes, we see a piece of history that we share, and they also follow a time cycle of 8 beats and 12 beats.
Okay.
Of course, with Kathak, since the dance form developed here, we have many time cycles that we follow. But for them, they stick to 8 and 12 beats, and they have the concept of what we call sum, that is coming on to the first beat. For in their case, it is the last beat, the 8th beat. Okay. For us, it is the first beat.
Instead of sa, it is ma.
So you can say that.
Sa,
so they have that concept of stopping on the 8th beat, and we stop on the first beat. Come back to the first beat. So those, I guess it's just a matter of time. They developed, they had their own journey.
Yes.
And while this thing was developing here, and there were a good amount of people who were practicing here. There was a small group of families who were practicing there. Yes. So naturally that difference was there, and the influence of the Spanish culture. So yes, there are a lot of similarities, and I could feel those similarities when I had the opportunity to work with flamenco artists. Yes. So and rhythm, I mean, they are masters of rhythm, no doubt about that. So it's always fun working with them.
So there is this flamenco dancer. His name is Hernan Cortes or something. I don't remember the name, but it said that he wears these special boots while dancing, and in a 3-hour performance, those boots got totally worn out. So I'm sure it's really, I mean, it's very similar to Kathak with the emphasis on the feet movements, the tapping and all that. Yes. I'm sure it's quite stressful and a lot of strain on the feet and ankles as well?
Yes, on the knee and ankle, yes.
So is that something you also have to take care of?
Yes, dancers have to be very careful about it, because one thing that you can, as a dancer, one can do is be very good with the technique of how you stomp your foot on the floor. That is generally taught by the gurus.
Okay.
If your guru is, if you have a good guru, then he can transfer that knowledge to you. That there's a certain technique of stomping on the floor, not with your entire weight on your poor little ankle, but rather that what you call the spring action.
Okay.
So that the weight, it just comes back. It doesn't hurt the knee so much.
Okay.
But today we have to be careful with the type of floor that we are dancing on. Toning and strengthening of muscles through other techniques such as yoga, Pilates, or other training formats that we have, whatever is convenient to you. And things like that need to be taken care of. Otherwise, it does injure us. Our dance form injures us many times.
Have you experienced that?
Oh, lots of times.
I see.
Because when we were learning, we didn't have this concept of warming up, cooling down. We are talking about this now.
Yes.
In India. This importance of warming up, then doing the stretches after you are through with your workout. If you think of it as a workout, then you need to suppose to do the cool down also.
Yes.
With us, it was like run to the dance class, tie the ghungroos, do the class, take off the ghungroos, go back home, do your homework. So that is how it was. So we were not taught these techniques, but now I take care that I tell my students that, listen, you're supposed to do this if you want to dance long enough.
What's the importance of the ghungroos? I don't think any other dance form has ghungroos, right?
No. All the dance forms have ghungroos except for Manipuri.
Oh, I see.
Everybody wears ghungroos, but in Kathak we wear a good amount, say anything from 100 to 201 feet.
I see.
The weight,
bells.
Yeah, bells.
I see.
And they can weigh anything from 1 to 2 kgs.
Wow, on each foot?
On both the feet. So you have to dance with that weight along your feet, because one purpose that they serve is, since it's a footwork based dance, it is very important for the audience to be able to hear each and every rhythmic pattern that you are presenting. So the sound of the ghungroos become very important. And yes, they have the musical element to it.
Yes.
So rather than hearing pat, 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 you hear chan, chan, chan. That's of course more musical.
Right.
And we have in Kathak, we have great reverence for the ghungroos. In fact, the earlier gurus were so strict, you couldn't go out of the class with your ghungroos on.
Okay.
Only you have to wear your ghungroos while you're in the classroom only. And during the time of Basant Panchami, that is the Saraswati Puja, we take our ghungroos to our guru for a special puja.
Okay.
And after that, that day we don't touch our ghungroos. The next day we wear our ghungroos and dance.
I see.
And Kathak dancers are more strict about how where they wear their ghungroos, how they wear their ghungroos, how they keep their ghungroos. Whereas I will say that in other dance forms, it probably is an accompaniment.
Okay.
For us, it is our first instrument.
It's the first instrument. Okay.
Yes.
I see.
We speak through that.
I see.
Through our ghungroos. So for Kathak dancers, they are very, very revered.
What's the meaning of the word Kathak?
From what we've learned from the books, there is this very famous adage, Katha kahe so Kathak kehlai. The one who tells a story is a Kathak.
I see.
So the word Kathak is not only the name of a dance form, which is actually a later development. Kathak is a community and which belonged to certain parts of Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh.
Okay.
So that community was called Kathak, who were into this profession of storytelling. And they were basically nomadic people. They used to move from village to village. And from what we know from the books, that they used to perform in temples and open courtyards, and they received patronage from the kings.
I see.
And the wealthy people from the village. And probably there was this strong element of dance at that point of time, along with the speaking, the storytelling aspect. And that is how slowly and steadily the dance form developed into what we know as Kathak today.
So was it originally or at some point in time a dance that was performed in temple courtyards?
Yes, that is what we know.
Okay.
That earlier it was performed in the temples only. In fact, before coming to the courts, before the Mughals came, it was strictly very, what you call, bhakti oriented.
I see.
And it was only with the advent of the Mughals that this element of Shringar came into it. And the dancers started performing in courts.
Okay. So it was taken out of the temple courtyards and in royal courts.
Into the royal
During the Mughal
courts.
times.
During the Mughal times.
So that's how the Mughals shaped this dance form.
Yes. It is deeply influenced by their culture, their thought process. We are also taught that females entered this area of dance, of Kathak dance, only during the time of the Mughals. Till then, it was a male-dominated area. Females were not dancing.
Okay.
And as we know today, now anybody can dance.
And how old is this dance form? Do we know how old it is?
No, we don't actually. We have a major chunk of history missing.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
We still are, there are many people who are working towards it, trying to find the link of how it actually developed from the storytelling form to the documented times. That is during the Mughals. We have some documentation from various foreign travelers of a dance form that looks like Kathak, is very similar to Kathak, but it was not called Kathak at that point of time. So how did that transition come? There is a major chunk that is missing and people are still working on it.
I see. If you go to the south, there are these dance poses that are carved on temples, sculptures that look like the dance poses of Bharatanatyam and various other dances. In the north, we don't have so many temples left. So that's a missing piece, isn't it?
Yes, probably that's a missing piece. And also, one very important element here is that although it was practiced all over India, the entire Vedas were like that, the Shrut Parampara.
What is that?
Shrut Parampara is when you listen and you remember.
Okay.
So when the teachers, the gurus were teaching the disciples, they were not writing things.
Okay.
They were just remembering, hearing and remembering. So since there was no documentation happening, probably we have lost a lot of things.
Yes.
In fact, I'll tell you interestingly, even when my guru was learning from his guru, that is his father, they were not allowed to write things down.
I see.
He used to say, "Likhna nahi hai, yaad karo." That is how I have learnt.
Okay.
So they used to write. After they used to go back home, then they, whatever they could remember, they used to write. And so we have proper documentation only from this last generation.
I see. I see.
Till then, it was just Shrut Parampara, as we say.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, in the old days, before the invasions, even the temples were centers of education. And we had written documentation. For instance, we know that Nalanda burned for several months, the library over there. Yes. So I think we, at one point in time, used to have copious documentation, and then it was all destroyed, and then we were forced to pass things down orally, and that became a tradition.
Yes, you can say that. But in case of Kathak, what happened was, I believe, since they were nomads, they must not be documenting
possibly
things.
If it's a nomadic, if it emerges from nomads.
It is not possible to move, along with so much documentation behind you. So it was not, at least in this tradition, I think there was not enough documentation happening.
Okay.
And therefore, many things that have been passed on. You see, the same as I gave you the example of a kavit, you'll find some words here and there. Even though the dancer might be from the Jaipur style of Kathak, he might use some words differently.
Okay.
Probably that happens, that's kind of a Chinese whisper kind of thing happening. You change a word here and you understand the word that way, and that is how you teach your student. So these sort of things happened with us. And as I said, yes, a piece of history is missing. We still need to connect the dots.
So you said you belong to the Jaipur style. What are the different styles, or gharanas are they?
Gharanas, yes.
So what are these different gharanas and what are the differences?
The patronage that Kathak received was in the Jaipur court and in the Lucknow court.
Okay, two
courts.
Okay.
So the dancers who were in Rajasthan, who received the royal patronage from the Jaipur court, they established the Jaipur Gharana, and the dancers who received patronage from the Lucknow court, not necessarily in Lucknow only, but UP, they developed what is called the Lucknow Gharana. Then again, there was, I really don't know how Banaras Gharana came into being.
Okay.
But then there was this Raja Chakradhar Singh in Raigad, who was very fond of dance and music. He was a very good Pakhavach player himself.
I see.
He gave patronage to a lot of artists from Jaipur and Lucknow Gharana, and later on, the dancers who were settled in Raigad, they developed what today they call the Raigad Gharana.
I see.
So that is how basically Gharanas develop, wherever you receive patronage from.
And they all had their slightly distinct styles?
Yes. Kathak, of course, remains Kathak, but in the Jaipur style, you can say, since it was still under the patronage of Hindu rulers, Rajputs, there was this essence of Bhakti Ras.
Okay, that's
which dominates. And also, you see the spins that we talk about, and when you see the folk dances of Rajasthan, you see Ghumar, you see Kalbelia, you see a lot of spins happening.
Yes, indeed, yes.
So probably, and we all are also, we all also believe that folk dances form the roots of all classical dances, not only Kathak but all classical dances. So I think we have borrowed a lot from those folk dances, and therefore the concept of spins in Kathak, especially in the Jaipur style, and use of footwork is, I would say, a portrayal of the Veer Ras
Veera rasa.
Veera rasa, that the Rajput rulers really wanted to see. That was what they were made of.
Okay.
So that thing is there. When we come to Lucknow, we see a lot of stress on the aesthetics.
Okay.
Right from the costumes to the movement technique.
Is this what they call shringar?
As you can call that shringar. So there was the dancers worked a lot on the beauty of the wrist movements.
Okay.
And concepts such as thumri. And
what is thumri?
Tarana. Thumri is a genre of singing in Hindustani classical music, which basically is you can call the love songs of Radha and Krishna.
I see.
So they worked on those aspects.
Okay.
So the socio-political situation,
indeed, it all affects.
It affects the cultural situation.
Yes.
So Jaipur Gharana and Lucknow Gharana developed that ways. Now when we are all in Delhi, everybody is in Delhi or Mumbai or Kolkata, the major cities, we do what we like to do.
Yes.
So now we are talking more about our individuality. And therefore you see that that lining of the gharana somewhere, when the dancer dances, you can make out this is the Jaipur, she has learned the Jaipur style or she has learned the Lucknow style, but you see more of the dancer, the individual personality of the dancer now.
I think this is something we have seen across India. There are certain royal families or houses that give patronage to a certain style of dance, and then it develops in a very distinct style. We see that in the south of India, we see that in Manipur, we see that in other parts of India. So is this something, I mean, after independence, the royal families were all abolished, the princely houses or whatever we call them. Has that caused a certain decline in classical dance? Because the patronage stopped coming?
The patronage stopped coming, and therefore things became very, very difficult.
I see.
The upholders of this tradition, all classical traditions, were, when we go to the south, were the Devdasis. And in case of the north, they were the courtesans. They stopped receiving patronage. Their life was in complete, doldrums. That is when the government stepped in.
Okay.
And there were some people from affluent families, some women from affluent families who could afford to establish dance schools, and took some of these people under their care. They learnt from them. They sort of, a little bit of appropriation happened with the dance form. They Sanskritized it mostly so that it is palatable to the audience at that point of time. And the government supported a lot. Then there were dance schools that we had, the Sangeet Natak Academy then after independence, and then various dance schools. Kathak Kendra is one such example. It is a government supported institute. Then we had Rukmani Devi in South, who established the Kala Kshetra for Bharatnatyam, and then the government took over and things like that. So when royal patronage stopped, then the government took over.
I see. So was it sufficient to keep the dance forms going?
Not sufficient, but yes, it was urgently needed at that point of time, and at least something was happening.
Something better than nothing.
Something was happening, and there were some people, as I said, who could afford to establish schools by themselves, and one has to admit that they supported the dance form.
Okay. So you spoke about folk dances as opposed to classical dances. In your opinion, is there any real difference between folk dances and classical dances, or is there not?
See, as I grow older or wiser, I'd say, for me, I today feel dance is dance.
Okay.
That classification, I don't know how long we'll be able to live with that classification.
Okay.
Of folk, classical, contemporary, modern, ultra-modern, whatever you want to say. But from what we have been told, folk dances are are not governed by very strict rules.
Okay.
Whereas classical dances have a very strict vocabulary and are governed by strict rules. And we follow this aspect of having the nritta aspect or the technical aspect, that in case of Kathak, that is the tal that we dance to, and we have the abhinaya, that is the expressional aspect. So all the classical dances follow this system of having these two aspects intact. Whereas in a folk dance, it is just a celebration of life, of joy, sometimes of sorrow too.
Okay.
We dance in situations of grief as well.
I see.
So that is the basic difference. But we also know for sure there is enough research to support that all classical dances have developed from the folk forms only.
Right. Okay. You said that dance is a vocabulary. And you said that most of the Indian classical dances, main dance forms, they share a common vocabulary. So I'm sure they have something specific to them and unique to them as well. So when you perform with dancers who practice other dance forms, or for example, foreign dancers, how do you converse with them? You have a different vocabulary, they have a different vocabulary. How do you make this work?
See, as far as other Indian classical dances are concerned, what is most important is that two dancers who are working together, they need to be at the same wavelength. If they are not able to put their thoughts together, then it is not going to be a fusion but a confusion. So another thing that is very important is both the artists need to be well aware of each other's dance forms.
Okay.
They need to be, don't need to be a practitioner. But if I'm working with a Bharatnatyam dancer, in the past, I should be a good audience to a Bharatnatyam performance.
Okay.
And as it is, since we all belong to the same culture, the Indian culture, it is important for a dancer of one classical dance form to be well aware of what other dance forms are trying to say and what is their way of saying it.
Yes.
That is very important. Once you are in that space, then it's very easy to work together, to find common grounds. And also I'd say at this point of time, Krishna comes to the rescue always.
I see.
Always.
I see.
Because he is one common thread that runs through all the classical dances, the concept of Krishna.
And when it comes to interacting with foreign dancers, what are the challenges there?
With foreign dancers, you have to explore the rhythmic aspect more.
Okay.
Because when we talk about ballet, suppose we talk about French or the Russian ballet, then they don't have this facial expression concept.
Yes.
They express through the body.
Yes.
Whereas we use our body to support our face.
Okay.
So there is this major difference there.
Yes.
So at this point of time, you can work a lot with a fusion of your music, because music is also a part of dance. So when we talk about dance, music is also there. We are fusing the music as well. So there you can work a lot with the music. And you can work a lot with the body movements. Fortunately for Indian classical dancing, it is not just restricted to the face. We use a lot of body as well. So that is when we can work with the Western dance forms. And when we are exploring tap dancing or flamenco dancing, then of course the rhythmic aspect is there to work with.
What about African dances or Eastern dances? Is there anything in common?
With the African dances, yes, the
Rhythms, very rhythmic.
Very, very rhythmic. They are so good and they are so strong with their rhythm sense. Sometimes you feel that, okay, I'm lacking something.
Okay.
they are so good. We had this very interesting concept where it was directed by my Guruji. We went to Ethiopia and we had this various dance forms. that came from all over Africa. And here, I think, from here, if I remember correctly, Kathak was there, Bharatnatyam was there, Chow was there. And he was supposed to make a complete, choreograph a complete evening while we were there in Ethiopia for 4-5 days.
I see.
And he used their music and he used their rhythm. And we all, shared it, whether it was Bharatnatyam, whether it was Chow, whether it was Kathak. We all danced together.
I see.
So it was a great learning experience of how this question that pops up now. That was a great experience at that point of time.
So are these experiences all learning and enriching experiences? Do they teach you something new every time?
Of course, every time. Every time.
And how about the Eastern dances like Bali, Cambodia, Japan, Korea? Do they have something in common with our dance forms?
Probably. I'm not so aware. I won't be able to comment on it because I'm not aware of the dance forms that they do there. My knowledge is very limited.
So now you are a guru yourself. You teach, don't you? So
I teach. I'm not a guru. Yeah.
Yeah. No real guru will call themselves a guru. No. So how is it to teach students? Is it difficult? I mean, what's the process?
It's again a great learning experience. You learn more than you teach, actually.
I see.
Because here you have a body to work on, and you have to develop an eye to see what works best for this person in front of me. I have to transfer my knowledge, but also make sure that his or her personality is able to enhance his or her personality, enhance her dance. So you have to create that critical eye, and also in the process see that, okay, this is looking good, probably will look good on me. This is not looking good, probably I need to rethink what I'm doing. So I think teaching is a great learning experience. You're not actually teaching, you're still learning.
You're still learning.
You're still learning. So, and it is, for me, since I enjoy teaching, it is very satisfying to see your students grow from awkward little toddlers who just move here and there to graceful dancers in a span of 6 to 7 years. And as I said, you are able to see so many things in a new perspective, in a new light when you teach, with them being in front of you. And you always have the option of experimenting. And okay, when they start young, okay, even if I make a mistake, I'll correct it later. But let's see how this works.
Okay.
So, so every day is, when you teach is, I learn every day.
What are the musical instruments that are associated with Kathak?
The most important instrument at this point of time is tabla. And we use a lot of harmonium still. Although harmonium is not a traditional Indian instrument, but we use it. Now it is a part of our culture. And this very ancient instrument called sarangi. Which is there. And we still have a few pakhavach players around to accompany us. We use the flute, we use the sitar, sometimes the violin too.
I see.
And then depending on when we do recordings, audio recordings for choreographic pieces, then very often we use the keyboard as well.
I see.
And other instruments too, depending on the need.
So dance is something that has evolved over the centuries. How do you see Kathak or other Indian dances evolving in the future, in the 21st century? Will Indian classical dance be able to survive the 21st century? Will it change because of the changes that we are seeing? How do you see it evolving?
See, change is inevitable.
It's inevitable.
That's going to happen. Kathak, since the past 20 years has changed. Right in front of my eyes it has changed.
It has.
So I feel that as a practitioner, I feel that as an audience. So definitely that change is going to happen. And as I said, now we think more, when we talk of dancing, we want to see a lot of the dancer in the dance rather than we don't always think about in terms of tradition. Is this true to the Jaipur gharana? Is this true to the Lucknow gharana? No, we are not getting into those debates anymore.
So it's now more about individuality, isn't it?
It is more about the individual dancer, what he or she is thinking, what affects him or her, and what stories does he want to tell? What stories does the audience want to listen to or watch?
Right.
That is, again, audience is a very, very big part, plays a very big part in how dance is going to shape in the future. So we cannot leave them behind. So with our changing audience, with their changing tastes, with their changing likings, the art form is also going to change. The students today, when we were taught about Krishna and Radha, then we never even thought of questioning our guru, is this Eve teasing? But students today talk about it.
I see. Okay. Changing attitudes.
Changing attitudes. Yes, you can say that when there is more depth to it than just this concept of Eve teasing. But then that culture has gone away from the homes itself.
Yes, yes.
They are not eating Indian food. They are not wearing Indian attire.
Yes.
They are not speaking in their native language.
Indeed.
So, do we expect them to understand the depth that Bhagavad Puran is? Because we get Krishna from Bhagavad Puran, not before that.
Yes.
So, but are we telling our children about these things? And when we are not telling them, when we are not educating them in this aspect at all, what are we expecting from them?
Indeed, yes. Yes.
To think of it in terms of Eve teasing. Then there is this generation of teacher only who is herself not very well versed with, because she comes from that upbringing. She has had that upbringing, and she says, yes, you're right, you don't need to do this.
Okay, so that's how things change.
So things change. They take a different route altogether. And then today we are told to rather accept what the other person thinks, rather than always trying to explain or trying to put your point of view forth. So I think yes, things are going to change. And so, as I said today, if I felt the need to talk about women empowerment, so I made a choreography on it. I also felt the need to talk about Surpanakha once as to show her in a light that is different from what Valmiki ji showed her. So there are so many, things now to think about. There is so much literature to read.
Yes.
There is so much awareness. There is so much influence of other cultures. So naturally, the dance form is going to change. And when the repertoire is going to change, the pedagogy is also going to change.
Right.
Because that is what it leads to.
And these days we have this phenomenon of these shortening attention spans. People want to see shorter pieces. So is this also going to affect classical dance?
Yes, definitely. It is already there.
So the performances are shorter now, are they?
Yes, very, very short. We have rare 1.5 hours performance. We have a very popular 20 minutes performance.
Okay.
It has even come down to 5 minutes.
I see.
Yes. So you're just there and so what happens? You compromise on the speed first and foremost. So as I said, I have seen dance changing in the last 20 years as an audience. Dance is becoming speedier and speedier. It's becoming very, very fast.
Okay.
So because the thought process of this younger generation is like that, they are in a lot of hurry.
Yes.
And so they want to expel that energy that they have. They like the speed. And in 5 minutes, what are you going to show?
I wonder, yeah.
If you don't speed up the entire performance, you won't be able to dance even 2 rhythmic patterns. And then it's time for you to exit.
Yes.
But then the best way forward is to accept the change. You cannot fight what is happening around you. And it is an inevitable thing it is going to happen. So you always tailor the art form according to the needs of the society at that point of time. And gradually, 50 years down the line, Kathak will be very different from what it is today.
Right. How easy or challenging is the life of a dancer, professional dancer? Not
easy at all.
How so? Please tell me.
Not easy in the sense because, monetarily, it's still very, very challenging because people still don't see it as a profession. They see it more as a hobby.
I see.
So, sustaining yourself and a family on dance or music or painting, any art form is not so easy. The opportunities are very less.
Okay.
And the number of artists is increasing every time.
I see.
So again, that puts pressure on the resources, and therefore everybody is not paid well. So it is not so very easy, but there is a trend that I see in the West, especially in Europe. I see that there are many artists who are into other day jobs during the day, and by evening they practice their beloved
Must
art
be really
forms.
hard, right?
It is more hard for them because in India we still have the support of families. We have to understand how it works here.
Yes.
For me, I was not earning till I was 24 years old, and I had no such pressure from my parents. So I could sustain, I could survive, I could, pull that time through. I told them that I still need to learn. See, I cannot earn right now. I still feel the need to learn more. And they supported me wholeheartedly. But what if I was to, sustain myself? I would have said, okay, I'll go to Guruji tomorrow. Let's just look for a job today.
Yes, right.
So those kinds, and that sort of, I would say, attitude I see in youngsters nowadays. The moment they are 18, 20, they want to earn. They want to be independent. I didn't see that streak in me or my friends also at that point of time. We were like happy taking money from our parents and,
that's how it is.
Still concentrate on learning.
In India, we don't kick our kids out the moment they turn 18.
No,
that's
we
not
don't.
our culture. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I believe it's a good thing.
Of course,
and some of the families there, they do practice this thing. They do keep their kids with them. And so that pressure was not there on me. But now I see the kids taking that pressure. The parents are not kicking them out. They are as protective as ever.
Yes, right.
In India, it is increasing rather, I'd say, this protectiveness. But they feel this need because they are so westernized now.
Yes.
They say that I'm 20, so I need my pocket money. I need my independence. So, with Indian classical art forms, you need to give it enough time. It's very, very important. Not only time under your guru, learning as much as you can, but time as an audience to learn from others by watching. This concept of observing and learning is also very, very intrinsic to Indian classical art forms. So you watch other performances, and not only Kathak, but Bharatnatyam, but Manipuri. Since I was brought up in the Mandi House area where all the cultural centers are there, I had the opportunity to go and watch performances all the time.
I see.
And so I learned a lot from that as well. And just this watching on YouTube, as we were talking about earlier, this barrier of screen is there.
Yes.
You're not able to feel the performance. You watch the performance, you don't feel it.
You don't feel it.
So
you have to be there to feel it, right?
Yes, you have to be there to feel it. This God-made screen is very, very, this camera is very, very important. So these are the things that probably are changing and will change the face of the art forms.
Do you think classical dance is a good, viable career option for a young person?
It can be. You have to be more open-minded about it, in the sense that you have to, I believe one has to take the multidisciplinary approach.
Okay.
I just did a small research paper, and I was talking about the evolving pedagogy. And when I started reading about it, then I saw that there should be a separate pedagogy for choreography now. There should be a separate pedagogy for dance being used as a therapy. And so on and so forth. There should be special training for people who want to teach dance in schools, who want to teach dance in universities. If we don't diversify that way, then probably just being a performer or a teacher, just with these two little, alleys opening up, it won't be a financially viable option. You can get into, there should be the opportunity to get into arts management, which is missing in India.
Okay.
We don't have that aspect at all.
What do you mean by arts management?
Arts management, there should be someone who can produce the shows for you.
Right.
Rather than
so the pressure is off you as a performer.
Yes. You as a performer should only think about performing. Create.
Ideally, yes.
Which is still happening in the West, but unfortunately it has not trickled down. All these good things are not trickling down. So that ways, we need to diversify. We need to see dance more than just performing or teaching, but we need to open more avenues. When we are able to do that, then dance will be a viable option.
Right.
As a career.
So there was a time in the past when classical dance was popular culture. Today, Bollywood and other stuff is popular culture. Classical dance, unfortunately, has become a niche aspect of culture. How can we make classical dance thrive again? It is so rich and it has so much to offer. How do we make this thrive again?
As I said, we need more support from the government.
Yes.
And why put so much pressure on the government? I believe all these business houses, these big business houses like Pepsi and Coke, who sponsor all these West influenced events in colleges and all, why can't they sponsor classical concerts? And why can't young artists be paid well and given a good stage? Why only the very popular ones? And that is a very sad situation. The big ones are being paid in lakhs and crores, and the younger ones are being told, here you take 10,000 perform and get your musicians, please.
Yes. And pay them from that.
And pay them from that 10,000. We are giving you exposure.
Right.
This word exposure is a very hated term now. So we need these people who are in these influential positions to come and support our Indian culture. There are so many different ways that they already earn money. Also I feel that this sort of this bent of mind can be developed into the kids while they are in school. So when in another 15-20 years, when they are in a position as CEOs, as entrepreneurs, they have that idea behind them that yes, I have to support my culture, I have to support my artists as well.
We don't teach anything about our culture in the education system.
No,
Nothing
absolutely
whatsoever.
not. And with this IB thing coming in, our children don't even know about the history of India.
That's the problem. That's where everything goes wrong.
Yes, it was a shock to me when I was teaching the kids who are around, I think they must be 10, 11 years old presently. And I was telling them about the history of Kathak in the most simplest of ways. And then there was this one child who was looking at me absolutely clueless. So I said, what happened? Why do you look so lost? So the other one said, ma'am, she has this IB syllabus, no? So she doesn't know about all these things, the history of India. So I said, great. You're living in India, you are not being taught the history
think
of
we are the
India, because
only
you're
country
following a
that does
syllabus
this.
that belongs there. This entire setup, the schooling system needs to change.
Oh, yes.
When you're talking about how can we make it viable, this system has to change.
Teach the kids to learn to love their culture. Expose them to the culture. It's as simple as that. You don't need to spend a lot of time doing that. Just a little bit of exposure, some awareness, and then they can explore on their own.
Yes, and they will develop an interest. It is there in their genes.
It's in the genes. It's in the blood.
Genes. Yes, they will. Now, the worst part of it is when people come with their children and they say, I want her to know her culture. You're bringing your child to me to know her culture? What are you doing?
What are you doing?
So why am I needed for that? I should only be needed for teaching her the nuances of her culture.
Yes. Yeah.
Not to tell her, what our mythology is. So if we stop thinking in terms of mythology as silly stories, but as something that was created to teach people values and ethics and morals, then we'll understand the deeper context in it and we will be able to transfer it to our children. But unfortunately, we are just running behind everything Western.
Yes, true. Now, my perspective is that since the government abolished the royal houses, it is now their responsibility to support the artists. And to some extent, they are doing it. But my question, I'm wondering whether the people who are in charge of the decision-making process of allocating funds and all that, do they understand Indian culture? Do they care about Indian culture?
Mostly they don't.
That's the problem. The babus, the bureaucrats.
That is a very sorry state. But that is what I'm saying. If we start working now at the school level, at the pre-primary level, in another 20 years, there'll be a crop of adults who understand this, who value this, and will be able to support it. Those people also you can't really blame exactly because they have been brought up the same way.
Indeed, yes. You can't blame them for that, yes.
Because they have not been taught this culture by their parents, by their schools. So they are blissfully unaware.
Yes, and they don't have the understanding or sensitivity towards culture. And the artists.
And the artists, right. So this thing has to change at the pre-primary level, I believe.
Well, I hope the government takes some note of this in case they hear this. My last question to you is, what advice would you, this is something I ask everybody, what advice would you give to young people? Not as a classical dancer, not as an artist, but general advice.
It is very important to stay connected to your roots. It is very good to appreciate whatever is around you. It is in this era of globalization, you need to know a lot about a lot of things. I understand that. But at the same time, it is very important to be grounded in your culture, in your value system. And if you have that, you lead a very happy life. Somehow, we are coming to a point where we want to monetize everything. Although you're not talking about dance or music, you're talking about a general perception of things. When people come with their children to me, they want them to learn dance. Their next question is, how will she be able to use it? That aspect of use and throw has to go from our lives. It has entered into all areas. So we don't want to do anything that we cannot make use of. That I feel is a very, very wrong way of thinking, because we are not working on ourselves at all. We are not working on our growth. We don't care about what makes us happy. And we just care about how much we can earn from this, what benefits can we get from this particular certificate, and therefore we should go for that and not for something that really satisfies us. So this inner strength, this inner happiness, this feeling of gratitude, we are losing very, very fast, and we need to get back to it.
Very important message. Swati ji, thank you so much for a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I had a very nice time.
Thank you. I hope you really enjoyed this conversation and gained something of genuine value from it. Subscribe now. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.